What is going on, GBA universe? My name is Brandon, and welcome back for week number 5 of the GBA Waiver Wire show. A show where we take a Pokemon that you guys, the GBA universe, choose, and basically let you know exactly how they would work in the GBA Counter League format. And this week, you guys voted for the Tier 1 Electric type Raikou. Now, first thing I want to say is you guys were absolutely fantastic with the support on the, for the changing of the show and the changing of the way we do the show now. You guys were awesome with getting as many comments in there as possible, and it was hard to narrow it down to just, I ended up getting 8 Pokemon for the actual vote on this week's straw poll. So I want to thank everybody for, mentioning Pokemon they wanted to see, all that. I couldn't get all of them because there was a whole bunch of them, but I want to say, I got a bunch of ones that you don't see these Pokemon that we're going to vote for next week, but make sure you stay tuned to the end of the episode because that's when I'm going to tell you what your options are for the vote for next week. But for right now, we got a Pokemon to cover that's on the waiver wire. Now, looking at Raikou, we see it has a 90 HP stat, 85 attack stat, 75 defense stat, 115 special attack, 100 special defense, and 115 speed. So you can see what sticks out right off the bat is that special attack, the special defense, and the speed stat. This thing hits hard on the special side, and it can take special hits a little bit, actually quite well. And so it's going to be it's your fast electric type, which is so in demand in the Counter League format. It's got a respectable special defense stat, and it could be used as a special wall breaker if you put a pair of choice specs on it or even put a life orb on it, depending on what you want to do with it. You can use this thing as a special wall breaker. Now, why do I think Raikou should have been drafted? Well, it's a fast electric, which is what, like I said, one of the most coveted commodities in the entire Counter League format. You see things like Jolteon go really quickly, Heliolisk is very popular. Its HP and special defense stat actually make it somewhat of an underrated, specially bulky mon that still needs to be feared as a specially offensive threat, especially if you throw something like an Assault Vest on it. So you throw an Assault Vest onto a Raikou, it's going to be taking special hits, but you got to be careful because it could definitely deal that damage right back to you. And one of my favorite things about Raikou is it's so ingrained in everyone's mind that what it does, it's a quick Volt Switcher, a special attacker, and all that it's an easy target to modify to catch people off guard. So what I'm saying is, you can kind of turn Raikou into something completely different and throw your opponent off because they're so used to Raikou being that fast Volt switching, being almost the centerpiece of a Volt turn core. Now on to reasons I think it may not have been drafted. Okay, Raikou's a tier 1 mon, which means it's expensive. And a lot of coaches this year have been looking elsewhere for those speedy Volt switchers, and in some cases looking to slow Volt switchers to actually cover that role. In the past, we've seen people take Magneton to actually fill in that Volt switch role, even though it does it slowly. When it comes to slow Volt switchers, though, we just saw Battler X trade for Electivire. And not to brag or anything, but I had Steve winning that match all along, so shut up, you can't prove I didn't have him. Another reason I don't think Raikou is drafted is its move pool does leave a little bit to be desired. It hasn't, don't get me wrong, it has a nice set of moves, but it's not the most vibrant or overflowing move pool that you want when you're looking for that tier 1 mon that you're going to draft. When you're looking for a tier 1 mon, you want something that can do a lot and has a really diverse move pool and hits hard and, takes hits. That's what you want in tier 1 mon, and Raikou just doesn't have all those characteristics. And of course, Raikou does have the reputation of being kind of predictable and always doing the same thing on teams. Like I said, it's always kind of the centerpiece of that Volt turn core, and people see past it and they just don't want to take it in drafts, which is, it's understandable. But let us not delay, let's get right into Pokemon Showdown. I'll show you what exactly we can do with a Raikou. First Raikou I have here is somewhat of a standard variant. It's got Leftovers, Pressure, Substitute, Calm Mind, Thunderbolt, and Hidden Power Ice. Of course, that Hidden Power Ice being there because you can't really touch grass types, and ground types scare you, and you can maybe predict them on the switch, so you can kind of hit the ground type, get out. This one's actually rocking the Timid nature with 252 in special attack, 4 in special defense, 252 in speed. Again, sometimes you may be able to run Modest depending on what the fastest thing on your opponent's team is. You don't always have to run the Timid nature. You might be able to run Modest nature with a certain amount of speed EVs depending on how fast your the team you're facing is. So again, when it comes to EVs on the Waiver Wire show, you can kind of definitely take them in stride. So I set them as I would set them maybe if I was laddering, but you could set them to whatever you need them to be, custom built to your opponent's team. Second Raikou I have right here is the Assault Vest with the Pressure, putting on the Aura Sphere, Hidden Power Ice, Thunderbolt, and Volt Switch. And I know Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, kind of both, they're both electric type moves, but the Volt Switch is to, add into that the Volt turning core. You always want Volt switchers, you always want U-turners, so Volt Switch and Thunderbolt having them on the same set, not a big deal in my opinion. This one's got 252 in special attack, 252 in speed, and you can throw the rest into HP, or you can throw it into special defense. Again, this one especially, if you want extra special bulk, you could take some off of speed depending on how fast your opponent's team is, throw some of those EVs in special defense. But the reason I like this set is I really like having Aura Sphere, just because it's part of that extra coverage that Raikou has, and I always enjoy using Aura Sphere on Raikou, even if it's extremely hard to get, because you have to basically RNG the thing to get the Aura Sphere on there, because the only other way I think you get Aura Sphere on a Raikou is getting the Aura Sphere on a Raikou is it's an event, so it has to be shiny, and I'm pretty sure you have to get around it being rash natured if you want the Aura Sphere, but for the sake of the argument, this one's timid. This Raikou right here, I call it the Crook Counter. This one's got the Shookaberry with Pressure, Thunderbolt, Calm Mind, Hidden Power Ice, and Volt Switch. This one's got 212 in HP, 252 in special attack, and 44 in speed. Now, why I have it set like this is actually the 212 HP is going to allow us to just take a Choice Banded, Max Attack, Adamant, Crocodile, Earthquake. With the Shookaberry, we're going to be able to just take that and then smack it with the Hidden Power Ice. Now, you might be in a situation where you can predict the switch and get a Calm Mind up before you do it. You could possibly just get the Hidden Power Ice off so you can put a dent in something like a Crocodile, because it has no reliable recovery. I just wanted to make like a counter to a ground Pokemon, a very strong physical ground Pokemon that you see in Counter League format. This is a Raikou that exactly could counter a Crocodile with that Shookaberry, catch him off guard. I think Nick said this week, Super Blah said it, if you're not using berries, you're dumb. I think it was something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing, but if you're not using berries, what are you doing in Counter League format? Berries, I've watched the GBA for a couple years now, and berries are becoming so popular in the GBA. We see Colberberry all the time. We see Shookaberry all the time. I'm pretty sure that we saw a Walkenberry Gyarados. Like, okay, like it's pretty crazy how popular the berries are this year. So Shookaberry Raikou had to be done. And of course, I always like to throw in something a little weird when it comes to my sets here. This is Raikou. It's Life Orbed. It's got Pressure. This has got the Swagger, the Psych Up, the Spark, and the Iron Head. Now, this one's ridiculous. The Iron Head doesn't necessarily have to be there. You could tech in whatever physical move you want. So basically what you're going to do with this one is you're going to hit the Swagger on maybe a specially offensive mon, so they don't get that. They get an attack boost, but it doesn't really help them in any way. So you're going to hit them with the Swagger. And now, you got a base 85 attack stat. That's actually not bad. So now you're going to Psych Up. Now you're going to take that +2 from them, and now they might even hit themselves, so you might necessarily not even take a hit this whole time. So you hit the Swagger, hit the Psych Up. If you still haven't taken any like damage at all, now you have a +2 physical Raikou, with the Spark being the most accurate, strong physical type move it has without adding Wild Charge in there. I didn't know if you could add Wild Charge, but it's going to whittle your Raikou down really quickly. I use Spark just to get that Electric Stab, and then you have Iron Head. It's got a couple of physical moves you could run on instead. It's got Crunch, I think. It's got a couple other physical moves, depending on what your opponent's bringing, depending on what you want it to face. So this one I thought of, okay, maybe I'm thinking, let's think of a Pokemon that's actually quite bulky on the special side. A Sylveon, maybe. Maybe you want to catch a Sylveon off guard, so you're going to Swagger the Sylveon. It's going to maybe hit itself in confusion. You got that 100 special defense where maybe you can actually, like, you're able to take maybe an uninvested Hyper Voice. And now you Swagger the Sylveon. Maybe it hits itself in confusion. And now what you've done is you've set yourself up where you can actually Psych Up, take that +2 from the Sylveon, and now you can just Iron Head it. So now you've gotten rid of a Sylveon with your Raikou, which no one expected. Now that is the perfect thing in Counter League format. Take out something that your opponent relies on, but with something that they didn't expect it being taken out from. It could definitely turn the tide in your favor. It can even win you a game, you never know. Now, as promised, the Pokemon that are on the straw poll for this week, we have Maractus, Swellow, Whiscash, Shelgon, Espeon, Moltres, Murkrow, and Sock. So it's definitely an eclectic group of Pokemon this week. A couple Eviolite users in there in Shelgon and Murkrow, but I am really looking forward to next week's Waiver Wire show because I have my work cut out for me depending on who gets picked here, because Maractus, I've never seen that in League format. Whiscash, barely ever seen it in League format. Swellow is probably my favorite mon out of all these because I've used the crap out of Swellow. Murkrow, I loved Murkrow. Moltres will be definitely hard because you'd have to pair that with something very good at getting rid of entry hazards. Sock, I've seen a little bit in League format. Espeon, you don't really see, even though it has a really good special attack. And Shelgon, I have no idea what in the world I would do with a Shelgon, but we will find out. Make sure to vote in the straw poll down below. Make sure to like this video. Make sure to go to the GBA website and the Twitter. All that good stuff is in the comment section down below. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you like to do with your Raikou, of course. And you know what, guys? That is going to be it for me. My name's Brandon. This has been week 5 of the GBA Waiver Wire show, and I will see you guys next week.